I'm the mayor of the District of Columbia, and I'm joined by Admiral Dixon Smith, Chief of Police Cathy Lanier, and we are here to give you a report on this morning's incident at the Washington Navy Yard. Elbow. We want to report that the police were called and asked for assistance by officials at the Navy Yard. We understand that an employee at the Navy Yard shortly after 7:29 reported that she may have heard gunshots in the facility. The police officials at the facility sent out the call to law enforcement in the area. Our police responded. Our police went into the facility with the assistance of our federal partners. At this time, there is no evidence of gunshots. There is no evidence of a shooter, and there's no evidence of any victims today. We look forward to finding out that all of our partners responded as they should have. The Chief of Police will convene a after-action meeting shortly after the incident is cleared to see how everybody responded. I'm very proud of all of the officials that answered the call. We know that there have been a lot of lessons learned from previous incident fatality here at the Navy Yard, and we have found that there has been a clear, coordinated, and convincing response to this scene. And we are grateful at this point that we have found no shooter, evidence of shooting, or any victims. I want to turn it over now to the Admiral so that the Admiral can describe how Navy officials responded in the current investigation in the center, and then we will hear from the Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, Cathy Lanier.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Vice Admiral Dixon Smith, Commander, Navy Installations Command, and first and foremost, I'd like to thank the Mayor, DC Metro, all of our first responders from the federal and metro area. Their response was outstanding this morning and very much appreciated. As the Mayor said, we received a report of an active shooter this morning at 07:29. We responded to that and called in assistance from Metro DC. As the Mayor stated, there has been no signs of a shooter, no shootings, and no injuries. Navy Yard remains in lockdown, and Building 197, we're finishing up the final walkthrough right now, checking and opening up all of our secured spaces. We expect that to be done within 20 minutes. Assuming we find nothing, then we will open up the Navy Yard again. For the folks that were evacuated out of 197, the Humphreys building, based upon the location of the building, they either went outside of the Navy Yard or they went over to our conference center. And based upon the events of a couple of years ago, we have counselors and our chaplains are with them now, providing the support that they need or desire. Again, in closing, I'd like to thank the Mayor and the Police Chief and all the first responders for your quick response this morning. We've learned a lot over the last couple of years. We've exercised hard. We're going to review this again to see what went right and what we can continue to improve upon to improve our procedures in the future. Thank you very much. Chief?
Just to give you a quick rundown from what we know right now. First, a call was placed from inside of a building, NAVC Command, this morning around 7:29. It went to the internal call center inside of the Navy Yard. That call, once received for possible sound of gunshots, was then immediately taken by the Naval District of Washington Police and broadcast over Metropolitan Police Department's citywide channel as a request for the Metropolitan Police and other law enforcement partners to assist with a potential active shooter at NAVC Command at the Washington Navy Yard. Our units, along with Metropolitan Police Department, along with United States Park Police, Metro Transit Police, NCIS, United States Marshals, ATF, and others, Capitol Police, all responded to that request for law enforcement assistance. Many of the things we talked about in our after action of the Washington Navy Yard response a couple years ago went very, very smoothly. So officers were immediately able to access the gates and get in. We were having radio communications both in my command center and in the field immediately from Naval District of Washington police officers inside of NAVC Command's building. Within 20 minutes of the first call, I was sitting in Unified Command with Admiral Hilardes, police chiefs and representatives from the FBI, NCIS, and other federal law enforcement agencies. In just about the same amount of time, Metropolitan Police Department officers and FBI agents were able to get into and take control of the command booth and access everything we needed in terms of cameras and stuff inside of the building. So having spent a lot of time doing the after action from the first incident at the Navy Yard, it appears that all the things that we tried to correct and make go better from the last incident went very, very well. A very smoothly, well-coordinated response here, and very happy that there is. This turns out to be a great exercise for us to see that we fixed what we wanted to fix, and nobody is hurt, and no evidence of any shots fired. So at this point, we'll take any questions that you have that we can answer.
Chief, how does increased concern about Independence Day by Fort affect this?
So the question is, how do we feel this impacts the increased threat for the Independence Day? Obviously, right now, all evidence is that there was no criminal act here, there was no shots fired, that no one was hurt, and we don't believe that it was a malicious hoax or incident like that. So I don't think it has any relative play on that threat level. We take every event here in Washington very serious, and our posture remains extremely high for all special events, and it will continue for the 4th.
Chief, let me clarify. Looking back, I meant by my question, Chief.
There's a lot of construction here. It's possible that someone just heard construction noise.
I mean, obviously anything is possible, and I think that we tell people over and over again, see something, say something. You don't know what's going on. Don't take things for granted. Make that call. So regardless of what it is, an employee thought they heard something of concern, they made a call. That's what we tell people to do.
Chief, there was a report of a surveillance tape that showed 2 men climbing a fence just minutes before the reports of gunshots. Are you investigating that? Is there this surveillance video?
I am aware of that. We have pulled all video. We are reviewing all video. We have no concerns about it right now. None.
Admiral, can you talk about the active shooter drill? What it is that you practice on a routine basis and how it works this time?
Sure. We all of our commands practice active shooter drills. So we simulate that there's an active shooter drill in the building, and we train with our employees on how to respond. The first thing is to get out. If you can't, then you barricade yourself, and you have to, then you fight. But we go through that and we exercise that, and we do that on a routine basis so our employees know what to do. There's no doubt in my mind that made a difference this morning in the actions that the employees at NAVC did in the Humphreys building.
And what else can you tell us about the person who called in the report about shots fired? And is there any concern that they did it on purpose? Is there any possibility that they have a connection to a terror group?
We have interviewed the person. We have no concerns whatsoever. Again, I think this is an employee that did exactly what we ask employees to do, and the general public to do. If you have a concern, something is not right, please call the police. Let us figure it out.
Chief, so you're saying that MPD units went in first with the assistance of federal?
Naval District of Washington police were inside of the building when they made the call to us, so we followed them into the building, yes.
Chief, where was she when she heard those sounds?
All I can tell you is that she was in an office inside of NAVC Command's building.
Chief, clarify my earlier question. Looking back at the size of this response, how many people, how quick, was any of that colored by the announcement of increased concern about terrorism on Independence Day?
I think the response we saw here today is exactly like the response that we saw here when we had the active shooter here in the last incident, is that we take every call seriously, and when we heard a call go out for a potential active shooter, we brought the resources that needed to be here, and I think it has nothing to do with the increased threat level. That's what we do every day here.
Chief, can you speak to the larger question about the July 4th weekend and your concerns about security threats in the nation's capital?
So, again, I think we operate here in Washington, D.C., that there's an elevated threat level at all times. We never lower our threat level in terms of our posture, and we're aware of what's, the discussion and chatter is around the 4th of July events and all those threats, and we take those into account. We change our tactics up for different events, but we never lower our posture. We always maintain a very high posture.
Deploying more people this weekend?
We have a full deployment for every 4th of July.
Chief, what would you say to people coming to D.C. that are worried, that are on edge, coming into the 4th of July, with events like this and previous events as well? What do you tell those people that are on edge?
Well, I think this event shows that you have a city that's very well prepared. You have a city that has a lot of local, federal law enforcement assets that are very well coordinated. We work together every day, and it's not only what you see, it's what you don't see. We do that behind the scenes as well. So I think people should feel very comfortable that this type of response does happen. Unfortunately, it happens when there is no, loss of life or real incident.
And it was just one call.
Did you talk to them?
There was a question here. Hold on, I'm going to get somebody else in. Yes, sir.
Chief, why are you convinced that this wasn't a hoax? Why are you persuaded that this was just a misunderstanding?
Because we've spoken to the person who made the call.
And what did she
Chief,
say?
how quickly was
The person who made the call heard what she thought may have been gunshots, and she made a call, which is what employees here are trained to do. We have no concerns that this was a hoax whatsoever.
Just the one call? That was it?
Yes.
after the initial response, some police ran to the drink in your house? Can you please tell us what happened there?
So what often happens with a response of this nature is there's a lot of police activity going on in the neighborhood, and people's sense of alertness is heightened, and when they see different things going on, they'll call, which is, again, we ask people to call. And so we started getting additional calls about people on roofs, and a lot of what we were getting was people calling in what they saw as police response. Most of the officers that responded here today were in uniform. Some were not. Those officers that were not in uniform, we did get additional calls about persons showing up that may be suspicious, and they turned out to be law enforcement.
Is that person who made the call? Is that person who made the call here on the base during the 2013 incident?
So the question is, was the person who made the 911 call today a person who was here during the original Navy Yard incident? I don't want to answer that question. I think for respect for the privacy of the persons that work here, I'd rather just not answer that question. You're going to have to repeat the question. Sorry. Well, information was coming in constantly as we were arriving on the scene. We were in the command center very quickly. We were able to listen to the call. We were able to listen to, or get the content of the call, listen to the radio transmissions. So, information came in constantly as we were here. Once we started, going through the building and interviewing employees, we took all the employees from the building to a separate location and began interviewing them. The more and more and more employees that we interviewed, the more comfortable we felt that we were really going in and just to secure this building, to make sure. We don't take anything for granted. Every inch of that building has been searched and is being searched the second time. So
let me just say, and we want to thank everybody for being here and taking this information. I think what we see is that we had a convincing response to this scene. What we've also learned is that things that we could have improved upon, that we've learned over the last couple of years, we've done exactly that. I think the coordination between our police department and our federal partners it has been so well executed in this event. And so when we talk to our residents and visitors who want to celebrate Independence Day in the District of Columbia, it should be very clear to everybody that we take clear and credible threats or calls from our citizens and employees very, very seriously. It should also be clear that the law enforcement apparatus of this city, which is not only our 4,000 officers, but a significant number of federal partners, will respond accordingly. So we're looking forward not only to the events on the National Mall celebrating the independence of our nation, but we will also stand up a significant number of events in our neighborhoods. So the 660,000 people of Washington are also going to be celebrating Independence Day in their neighborhoods. Thank you, everybody.